Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jack O'Callahan.
Thank you. Hi. Well, that's a little different, huh? You come to a conference on aging and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you start watching a hockey game. Kind of fun. I always enjoy seeing that. You know, I kind of used to joke with my kids. I said, yeah, in the 20 years or so since that happened, I said my teeth grew back, but my hair fell out. So stranger things have happened, I guess. The kid that played me in the movie who had long curly hair, he's a very popular kid in the movie Miracle, and we were talking a little bit this morning, and because this happened so long ago, 38 years ago, so many of the new and younger generations sort of identify with our accomplishments in 1980 in the Lake Placid Olympics. They see us as the movie people, you know, so they froze us in time, and they just think of me as a 22-year-old kid with long curly hair and a cocky attitude that comes across really kind of as a happening wise guy in the movie. And I get letters from like 6 and 9 and 10 and 12-year-old girls and even boys, and they're like, God, I love you. You're like my favorite hockey player. And so I'm here at a conference on aging, and I'm thinking, wow, this is the way you stay young. Okay? Get somebody to make a movie about you, and then you're forever young. Solves all the problems in the world. We don't even have to go to that sex conference later, I'm telling you. Although I'm not going to miss that. Thanks for reminding us. So it's fun to be here. You wonder maybe how a guy like me ended up here in a situation, like this at this conference. Well, number one, I'm really happy to be here. There's so much information. I just turned 60 last summer. And my wife just retired last spring. So, some of the things we're dealing with, like staying busy and all this and that and this and that and the other thing, it's very interesting to me here. So it's very informative for me to be here, but you wonder how I ended up here. So you saw where I grew up if you were listening. I grew up in a place called Charlestown, Mass. They made a movie called The Town after it. So if you've seen that movie, you know that I grew up basically surrounded by Teamsters, longshoremen, cops, firemen, and bank robbers, okay, in a 1 square mile part of Boston with 3 Catholic parishes. So, if it wasn't for sports and education and family, I don't know, who knows, I'd probably be talking to you through bars right now. But fortunately, that's not the case. Because of the people I grew up with in that town, and because of the support I got as a young man, a young child, and all the way through my formative years, I ended up in a great high school and a great college, and became a really good hockey player in college. And obviously, that led to the Olympics, and that led to a 9-year professional career in Chicago for the Blackhawks and the New Jersey Devils. And then I kind of parlayed that into becoming a commodity trader in Chicago at one of the exchanges, and then next thing you know, I had a business going, and so I ran a commodities business for 25 years, institutional commodities, clearing and execution, and et cetera, and then next thing you know, I kind of got sick of that, made a change, and I joined a company called Ziegler Capital Management. Well, it just turns out I was talking to a good friend of mine whose name is Larry Landry, sitting right back there, the man behind the curtain, we like to call him. I'm not done with you yet, by the way. But I ran into Larry. Larry and I have been friends for about 12 years, and I was, we had known each other from Chicago. We're both from the Boston area, and so about, 3 years ago when I joined this firm, I was with Larry, and I told him what I was doing. He was like, I know them. I was like, what do you mean you know them? So that connection really started resonating with us. We had spent some time talking about Masterpiece and about, his brother and some of their ideas about Masterpiece Living. I didn't quite understand it, but being part of Ziegler Capital, we used to be part of BC Ziegler, which is like the foremost assisted living finance, investment bank in the country. And we rolled out, before I showed up, we rolled out of that company, say in 2010 or 11, and became a separate standalone asset management firm. But we still do a lot of work in the assisted living space, managing money for different types of, bond proceeds, short term. I'm here with my associate, Kevin Carlson, who kind of is involved in that part of our business, in the banking channel, we call it. And again, because we're here at Aging, the other person that works with him, Craig Vanucci, where do you think he is today? Well, he's 58 or 9 years old. What do you think he's doing? he's got some arterial issues, so he's getting surgery today, right? So we've probably all lived through that, and I'm sure I'll be having some of that myself. But, you know, it's been really fun for me to get to understand more about the assisted living world, about what Masterpiece does. I really enjoyed the presentation earlier about staying busy. As you age, you know, my dad passed away at 82 about 3 years ago. He stayed busy, and that kept him alive for a long time. And I kind of wonder, you know, in some of the conversations Larry and I have had over the years, you know, you wonder how this sort of relates to, say, what we did in 1980, right? So if I can kind of go back a little bit, well, I'll tell you a story I told Larry one time when we originally started talking about aging and Masterpiece and his perspective on how to age well, right? And that was the whole thing, how to help people to learn how to age well. And I said, well, you know, I got to tell you, Larry, my first wife, her grandma was a really nice lady, Molly Gilman, and I remember she lived to be about 89 years old, and she was really, you know, spry on her feet and bright and smart. And I remember saying to her one time, I was probably in my late 20s or so, and I said, hey, Molly, I go, what's the secret, man? She goes, what are you talking about, Jack? And I go, well, come on, well, you're 89 years old, you're bouncing around like you're younger, you're smart, you're with it. She goes, I got to tell you, and I'm telling Larry this story. She goes, you know, there's 3 things, man. Number 1, you really got to get your exercise. Exercise is critically important, so make sure you exercise for your whole life. Number 2, you got to eat well. Eating well is very important. You know, your diet's a key thing. But number 3, the most important of all, without a doubt, is you have to pick your ancestors very well, right? You probably all heard that because it's probably an old age joke, right? So the first time I heard it was from my ex-wife's grandmother. So I tell Larry this, and he's like, you know, that's absolutely true, Jack, but we can even help enhance that because we've done so much research and created so much data with my brother and everything he's done, and what we've created here is helping people enhance that sort of genetic experience to make it last longer, to be more fruitful and fulfilling as you get older. I mean, the idea is, you know, you have a great life and then, you know, you get to a certain point and then you die. You know, sign me up for that right now. I'm in. You know, have a great life, be active, and then whammo, sign me up. And I think what the message I got from Larry then was about preparation, right? You have to prepare. You have to not be afraid of the information. You have to not be afraid to face, you know, the life you have, the life you had, and the life you're going to have, right? So I look back at our Olympic team in 1980. There are a couple things that stand out for me, right? So I graduated college in 1979, and I won everything in college. And, you know, Villanova won last night, and I won that too. You know, I mean, some guy won the MVP of that tournament. Yeah, I won that too. You know, I got all this stuff, and then a gold medal on top of it, and 9 years as a pro. But my senior year in college, you know, I had an opportunity to play on a World Cup team in Moscow. So think about this. In 1979, in May, I spent a month in Moscow. This was before the curtain came down, and it was crazy, right? I mean, people were, you know, they used to park their car and get out and take their windshield wipers and put them in a bag and walk away because the black market would come steal their windshield wipers. So we'd see that from the bus, and we're like, you know, what the heck is this? But I played over there for a month, and Herb Brooks was the coach, and I really wanted to make the Olympic team. And my senior year in college had gone a little in, so I worked hard and played hard, and at the end of it all, I came back, and I had an agent, and he was talking to Herbie, and Herbie said, you know, we talked to Herb, and so I went and talked to my agent. I said, what did Herb say? He said, well, he said he wants you on the team. We were going to start playing in, say, July of 79, and then February of 80 of the games. And I said, so Herbie wants me on the team. He says, yeah, he'll guarantee you a spot. You'll play those 50 games, and unless things go really sideways for you, you'll be on the 80 Olympic team in February of 1980. I was like, that's fantastic. I was like, wow. I said, so what did he say? Like, you like the way I skated? Like, no, I didn't really say that. Well, playmaker? No, I didn't really say that. A tough guy? No, I didn't really say that. So how the hell has he put me on his team? And he said, you know, all he talked about was your attitude. You know, he said that he just liked your attitude. You know, you had a positive attitude. You didn't quit. You were competitive. You had a strong attitude. You know, you looked at things positively. Didn't matter where you were in the game. You know, you just always had a great attitude. And obviously, I was a good player, so I had the skill set behind it as a player. But Herbie was trying to find, you know, what separated sort of a good player from maybe being someone who could be part of a great team. And he focused on my attitude. And I thought, at first I went, because I didn't really like this guy that much to begin with. We had some run-ins in college, so I was not predisposed to have a positive outlook upon him, right? That's what I would tell my kids when they'd say, my daughter would say, I hate him about her brother. I'd say, I don't like that word. How about you say, I haven't quite acquired a taste for him yet. But anyway, so I kind of hated Herbie Brooks. But that being said, when he kind of identified my attitude about something that was a positive aspect of who I was, my character, I started to think maybe this guy had something special that I needed to pay more attention to. Again, talking to Larry when they were kind of developing Masterpiece, and we've been friends for that period of time and everything, and he brought that up. He said, you know, he says attitude is so important. He talked about some of the different things we just heard about staying involved. You know, I think of you guys, Larry, when I do crossword puzzles all the time, right? I'm trying to keep my brain because I probably banged my head too many times in my life. So another thing I'm involved with is concussion protocol in Chicago, and I have donated my brain to science, like if anybody's ever going to want it. But I have done that because as an athlete who's had some, you know, concussive hits to my head in my life, you know, I want to maybe use that when I'm long gone, that maybe they can, I don't know, figure something out to help people that are coming along, right? So giving back, I guess. But that being said, you know, attitude is such a key component of my life as a young man, and I think as I age, that same attitude that I still have will be a big piece of who I am when hopefully 20 and even 30 years from now. Being open, being willing to meet new people, being willing to make friends, being willing to listen and having an open mind, and not be closed down. You know, closing down leads to isolation. Isolation leads to bad outcomes, right? That's what we just heard. One of the things in our 1980 Olympic team, again, if you saw the movie, you'll see me in a fist fight with somebody named Rob McClanahan, who's one of my good friends, actually. And he would never fight me. They asked him after the movie, you know, Robbie, did you really get in a fight with Jack O'Callaghan? And he's like, I'm not that stupid. He's from Charlestown, you know, he would have killed me. I'm from like Mounds View, you know, I grew up in a big house. He grew up in like a 3-flat, whatever. He would have ripped my head off. But it looked good in the movie, right? So, and I think what they were trying to show in the movie was the animosity between players from the East, me, New England, and the West, Minnesota guys, you know, 10, 12 guys in that team. So when you think about it from that perspective, we came together as a team and there was a lot of animosity, right? It could have gotten ugly, but Herb Brooks, again, as a leader, wasn't going to accept it. And part of his preparation, or to get us prepared, was to help us come together as a team. And he set the bar very high, and he forced us to get to know each other and break down the walls that were between us.